My name is Aaron, and I'm 19 years old.
My name is Star, and I'm 23.
My name is Sean, and I'm 17 years old.
I'm non-binary, and I prefer they/them pronouns.
I identify as transsexual, and my preferred pronouns is she.
I'm a trans guy, and I prefer he and him pronouns.
When I was 14 or 15, I joined Tumblr. I was a Tumblr kid.
My self-discovery was almost having to unlearn basically everything I was taught growing up.
When I was going into grade 9, I started being very confused about my gender. And I was I didn't want to admit to myself that I was trans, and so I kind of had these 8 months of serious self-repression where I wore a lot of makeup and I acted very feminine.
Which is where I first found out about queer stuff, about what trans people are. And I was like, maybe that's me.
My parents are conservative Christians.
And then I remember one day I was walking home from school and the voice in my head just started screaming, "What the hell is wrong with you? You're a guy."
Ooh, is that me? Of course, I kind of shoved that into the back of my mind for quite a few years. And then when I was 18, I started actually meeting trans people, like IRL.
And so from there I was like, shit, I gotta do something about this. So I finally came to terms with myself and started living as Sean.
And I had to basically embrace who I was by accepting who I am and loving who I am.
And realized, oh my, I want to be like that. That's who I want to be. I want to transition. So yeah, I finally properly came out and accepted that I was trans when I was 18. I'm 8.5 months on testosterone, and I started coming out as trans, so I began my social transition a couple of months before that.
I have been transitioning for roughly 2 years now.
I am currently 5 months on testosterone. I am hoping to get top surgery quite soon, and other than that, I'm just figuring things out as I go.
There are plenty of different genders that have come and gone through history, recognized in different cultures and different circumstances. And then there's questions like, what is a gender? What counts as a gender versus, simply an aesthetic or social position? So I think counting genders is kind of a futile task.
I recognize that gender is based on culture, so I believe in certain cultures there are only 2 genders, but in other cultures, for example, in First Nation cultures, they might have multiple gender expressions.
I don't know if there's a specific number that I could say, but there's obviously more than 5, at least.
Do you believe that gender dysphoria is a requirement of being transgender?
Not in the way that most people mean that. I don't think you need physical dysphoria to be transgender. When most people say dysphoria, they mean physical dysphoria, but that's not the only kind of dysphoria there is. Dysphoria is just a discomfort of some kind, and that can be physical discomfort with your body, or also social or mental, where you just are uncomfortable with being perceived as or thinking of yourself as the gender you were assigned at birth. And I don't think that anyone transitions without some aspect of dysphoria, but also I don't think it's on me to be the gatekeeper and say who experiences valid dysphoria or not.
I do believe that gender dysphoria is the most important part of being transgender, because without having dysphoria, you don't actually have the experience of feeling dysphoric. Also, without dysphoria, you do not experience the pain and suffering of wanting to transition.
It seems to be a sticky subject because, like, gender dysphoria tends to be confused with body dysphoria, because gender dysphoria is not aligning your gender with your biological sex, but body dysphoria is being super uncomfortable in the body that you're in. Body dysphoria is not needed to be trans, but gender dysphoria is.
I'm a musician and a composer. I like reading, I like playing role-playing games. I've recently started doing drag. I play video games. I am a drag king. I do male drag. But drag is a contentious issue. And has some, there have been some issues around it recently, but the way I see drag being a drag king or being a drag queen is not limited by gender. So just because I do male drag doesn't mean that I am female or that I'm a woman dressing as a guy. I'm me dressing as a guy.
My hobbies and interests include spending time with my boyfriend and my friends, playing video games, playing music on my banjo. I like camping as well.
I am a musician. I'm hoping to go into being a music teacher. I'm in show band, and one of my biggest interests is just making sure that others know that they're cared for and that they know they're loved.
They do the photography for like all the queer events in Calgary.
Okay.
I first thought I might be trans when I heard about it on Tumblr when I was 14. And I don't think I ever really entertained the idea of being a binary man. That always seemed kind of weird to me. I knew that if I was trans, I was definitely non-binary. It just took me a long time to realize that that was the case between, first hearing about it when I was 14 and finally coming out at 18.
What did you kind of go through during that time?
Well, I was going through high school, mostly, and that's, I went to school in a small town, and...
So you went to school outside of Calgary then?
Yeah, I, lived in BC for the first 18 years of my life, and moved here for university. I lived in a small town, and it was it's kind of isolating. I was definitely very happy to encounter the queer community in Calgary when I moved here. And that was definitely a huge help in helping me realize that I was trans. Because there was a couple of other trans people in the town that I grew up, but no one had started transitioning yet. There was really no way to transition in high school where we lived. The nearest psychiatrist was over an hour's drive away, and how would you get there? And, how would you get there without your parents knowing? But when I came to Calgary, I met trans people that were transitioning or had transitioned, and finally connected the dots of, oh, that's what I could do. That's what I could look like and be like and act like. I want that. So that was, and of course I went through a bunch of phases of
Hip-hop,
trying on other
hopping
labels.
around other identities and all that.
Yeah, and Am I bi? Am I a lesbian? Am I this or that?
Just kind of trial and error.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, all the self-doubt of maybe I really am just a straight girl looking for attention. But, yeah.
Now, do you get a lot of criticism for the identity that you hold for yourself?
I mean, in real life, not too terribly much, because I surround myself mostly with other queer people. Most of my friends are queer, or at the very least, very...
Supportive?
Yeah, very supportive. But I definitely know that there are people that have criticisms of me. I'm not out to everyone I know. And I know that a lot of them, if or when I tell them, won't like it.
Is that something you fear a lot?
Not really. All the people that are important to me, that I really want to keep around in my life, are supportive. If someone that I know has a really bad reaction, in most cases I think I would be able to let them go pretty easily. Perhaps the one glaring, unfortunate part is my dad.
Your dad's not very supportive?
Yeah, my dad is very not supportive, which is unfortunate because I rely on him financially a lot right now, going through school. So I can't really cut him out of my life. I kind of have to try and stay civil with him, but it's pretty hard when he's, you know, doesn't accept me, or, you know, doesn't use the right language and actively ignores my identity.
Have you tried to explain to him what it's about, what it means to you? And
I've tried. I've tried to send him to his local support group for parents of queer children. And I've tried leaving him literature for him to read. I've tried explaining it in my own words. Don't think he ever went to any of the support group meetings. Don't think he ever read any of the literature I gave him.
There's only so much you can do then, right?
Yeah.
Is it something that you just don't talk with them about now?
Yeah, for the most part. He very much tries to avoid the subject because he's realized that I do stand up for myself. And he doesn't like drama.
That's fair enough. He doesn't want to upset you, and he doesn't want to get involved in a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just kind of one of those things where it's best to just avoid it, I guess, if that's the right way to say it.
Yeah, for now at least. You know, who knows how that'll go in the future, if he'll change his mind, or, you know, if I do need to cut him out eventually. Like, the unfortunate reality is that I don't want someone in my life who is only going to make me feel worse, even if that person is close family.
How much do you think it'll hurt to let him go? If it comes to that.
I don't know, I think I'm kind of over it. It's been going on for long enough that I don't think I would be too terribly sad. Be awkward more than anything.
Just say anything, this is just a test.
This is the test. What made me realize I'm trans? That's a good question. Actually, it's really funny. I remember when I was younger, I would talk to people about the whole concept of boys becoming girls and girls becoming boys, and that always fascinated me. And I remember talking to someone about, like, this is years ago, I was like 11, so I don't remember who. And she said to me, I have a neighbor, and my neighbor became a girl. I'm like, that's the thing. I'm like, no way. And that moment on, a light bulb came in my head, and I'm like, I knew that this was for me. And I just held on to that for years and years, probably a good 10 solid years before I came out as trans.
Do you have anything else to say about that? How did your family react to that?
Okay, so actually it's a very funny story. So when I wanted to come out as trans, or, start transitioning, I was 20. I moved out, it was February. It was a cold month. And I needed someone to help me move. And so my dad was helping me move. And what happened was my landlord was a trans woman. And so as my dad was helping me move, he was talking to my roommate. And my roommate basically said, well, the landlord's trans. And my dad connected the dots right there and knew. Because there were some implications that I was trans. I did do some cross-dressing when I was a teenager. So he instantly connected the dots and knew what's up. So then he went driving all the way home. He just dropped everything, went on home. I followed. He told my mom, then he told my older brother and my sister. And then I get a phone call from my older brother saying he wanted to meet me. And I'm like, well, that's unusual because we don't get along. Me and my older brother don't get along. So I go down to his place. And he basically says, cross-dressing is wrong and going to hell for it because, being a Christian, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whatever. You can believe what you want to believe. But then about 2 weeks later, after, I get a phone call from my sister to come see her. I'm like, okay, something's not adding up now. So I go see my sister. And it's about being trans again, but the opposite twist to it because she's atheist. She doesn't hold on to Christian beliefs. So she's like, I'm accepting. I will accept you if you ever want to come and talk or whatever. So yeah, long story short, half my family is for me and half my family is against me. My mom is much more accepting of it. She's more willing to see me and talk to me. And talk to my boyfriend. My dad will refuse any acknowledgments of my boyfriend. Because they would see that as being gay. But yeah, in the long short of it, half my family's accepting, half my family's not.
And so what has your relationship been like with your family since then?
Okay, because I have a lot of siblings.
Yeah.
If we're gonna just go from oldest to youngest to make it simple, my older brother, I have no contact with whatsoever. We never got along well, so. As for my sister, I've actually gotten closer, oddly enough, for being trans.
And this is the atheist sister, yeah?
I only have the one sister.
Oh, you only have one
yeah,
sister, okay.
One sister. And, yeah, we get along really well. We talk about life and all that.
Is your sister happy to have another sister now?
And I think that's a really good question, because I never thought of the other way of they all have a sister now but lost a brother. She seems to be happy about it. I think when she was younger, because most of my brothers are adopted.
Yeah.
When I was younger, she wanted to be the little girl of the family. But I think as she got older, she's much more accepting of that.
Do you think she was ever lonely, being the only girl in the family?
I think that is a bit isolating. Like when you have 6 brothers and you're the only girl, I think that is isolating. But she's accepting. My nieces, her 2 daughters are very lovely and very accepting of it. Kind of hard though for a 4-year-old to understand. You try, but it's not easy. Then
just simple explanations.
Yeah, simple explanations. Well, for example, I remember going about a year ago, and she was free at the time, and she's like, "Are you a boy or a girl?" I'm like, and all I said to her was, "I was a boy, but now I'm a girl," and that's all you can really say to a 3-year-old. You can't really get into depth of that.
Yeah.
hormone surgery is blah blah blah.
Because it's too confusing, right?
It's too confusing. Well, I went. I actually volunteered for the Boys and Girls Club in Forest Lawn, and I appeared a lot more masculine then. I was not passable as a woman at all. But so I went, but I was dressed as a guy then because I was kind of conflicted with my gender identity still, but still identified female. And I go, and all the leaders are referring to me as she, but I look like a guy, I sound like a guy, I'm acting like a guy. So all the kids are confused and like coming up to me, like probably a good 20-30 kids out of 60 kids came up to me. So about half the kids came up to me and said, "Are you a boy or girl?" I mean, when you have that, it's really hard to explain. When you get kids from grade 1 all the way to grade 6.
Oh, so that's quite a wide range.
That's quite the wide range of kids.
And you can't explain the same way to a first grader as you could to a sixth
Not
grader.
at all. Not at all. I did found a good book that explains it. I wish I brought it. In hindsight, I should have brought. I have a children's book that breaks it all down for a little child. So 2020 hindsight. But anyways, my brother Eric, he's accepting. He's not accepting really of me being with a boy, like having a boyfriend, but he's fine with it. He's not outspoken about it or anything.
So it's like he doesn't agree with it, but he doesn't have a problem with it in a sense.
No, he has no problem. What's next? Then that'd be my brother Devin. I have no relation with him at all, so I don't really know where he stands on it anymore. And then for my brother Riley and Jordan, I have not seen them in 2 years. I haven't seen them in 2 years. My parents won't let me see them because they are worried that they will become trans and be contaminated by my transness.
And how old are these two siblings of yours?
They're not young at all. One's 17 now.
Oh, okay.
And the other's 14.
But they're still underage.
Because they're underage, exactly. My plan is when my brother Riley turns 18, I would like to get in touch with him and talk to him. I feel like my parents' beliefs have been really enforced. I remember talking to Riley when I came out, but didn't start transitioning, and I remember his words pretty bluntly. He said, "I want my brother back." And that stings. That really does sting because I'm still the same person. Sure, I don't look like a guy anymore, but it's still not easy when you want to be close with your family. But I'd say when it comes to religion, you can't put religion before people. It's unethical. It's not right. It's not showing love to people. It really isn't. I'd say religion has ruined my family. Even though I hold on to my spiritual beliefs, I will not surrender those for anything. But religion, I'll put it with this quote, because my parents are conservative. And this was from Harry Benjamin, from his book, The Transsexual Phenomenon in 1966. So this is like 50 years ago. And he basically says, there's nothing wrong with conservative beliefs. The problem is when it gets in the way of making progress. And I would also add to that, when it gets in the way of loving people. I'd say he was on to something, and that was 52 years ago.
And what's your relationship with your parents right now?
Relationship with my parents is very weird. It's up and down like a yo-yo. But right now, it seems to be going pretty good. I'm seeing my dad on Monday for the first time ever presenting female, which I'm shocked. I'm actually shocked he's willing to do that because he has implied and said, "I will never see you as a woman." So that's a big step. As for my mother, we're having good conversations. I keep it distant. I don't try to see them too often. I see them about once, maybe every month or two. But I don't want to see them more than that because I don't want any toxicity in my life. I've had enough toxicity in my life. I want to be around people that I feel help me grow as a person, help me bounce back with resilience, and be happy, embracing who I am. Because that's what being trans is about. It's about embracing who you are, learning life all over again, starting all over, and learning who you are and to love yourself. And I've learned my whole life to hate myself. It's about time I learned to love myself and enjoy who I am. not what I'm not.
And how do you feel that the reconnection with your father is going to be?
I have no idea. I hope for the best. I want the best. As for how do I think it'll go, I don't know. I really hope for the best. I have my fingers crossed. I don't think he'll agree with any of it, but I think he's realizing because of my sister is not in touch with my family for completely different reasons, but private reasons. And I think they're starting to realize my family is broken because of that religious experience. Keep in mind, my parents went to a cult for 10 years, so it's very much their beliefs are the right beliefs. There are no other rights.
And what kind of cult do you mean?
They went to the Church of Worldwide. I don't know much about it, but basically what it was you did not associate with people outside your church. You did not, you follow very strict laws. You did not question anything, and you were obedient. And that's very much the case how they still follow and enforce their religious beliefs to this day. They will not associate really with other people that are not Christian, which is their choice, which is fine. But I feel like they don't challenge themselves as people. Because if I had everyone the same as me, I would never be challenged, I would never question life, would never learn about the world. Because I'm just being comfortable in my own paradigm.
And what kind of plans do you have for the future if it doesn't work out?
Well, doesn't work out with my family?
Yeah.
If that comes to be, so be it. A good saying one of my best friends have said was, you cannot change people's actions. The only thing you can change is how you respond to it. And by that, I will engage with my parents, engage with my family, and love them, but I can't force them to change, to accept me. But I will love them regardless, and I'll think the world of them regardless, whether they love me or not, and that's okay with me.
But you're hoping that things work out with them, right?
Of course. That's just the human condition, is to be accepted.
Yeah. Now, why do you think that your dad contacted you after so long?
I think it's partly because my family's kind of gone to shatters, broken, per se.
Do you think they blame you for that?
I would say that's part of it. I was the problem child growing up. I was a very angry child growing up. I've worked on it. I still have things to change and grow as a person. That's just part of being human. But when it comes to my dad wanting to get in touch with me, I think he cares. He does care, but I think he struggles. And it's hard to have your kid grow up your whole life. And you have a son. And it's your last kid you can ever have. And your son says, I'm not your son, I'm your daughter. That's hard to take in. You know, especially when you don't want that in your religious beliefs. But also, add on top of that, saying, I like men. That must be very hard to grow, to be in that belief system. And to have your youngest last child say, I am not who you want me to be. I am something very, very different. That is a hard pill to swallow, especially for my dad. Like how well I know my dad, that's a hard pill to swallow for him. But he still loves me. He still cares about me. He wants what's best for me. And I think in his beliefs, it's not what's best for me. And I think I more come from an approach of everyone's different. Everyone has different needs. For example, with transgender people, some people will need hormones, some won't. Some needs SRS, some won't. And some people might want, some trans women might want electrolysis. Some choose to never have hair removal and live with having facial or body hair. And that's up to them. Everyone has different needs. Everyone has a different way to learn and grow and know the world. And trying to put people in a box, I think that's where it becomes problematic. Is that trying to see things in the other person's eyes, in their world. it's not easy, especially when you grow up or experience life in a very particular way, or understand in a very particular way.
And do you have any other plans for your transition?
As for my transition, I have contemplated for years of having SRS. I have made the decision not to because of the complications of the surgery, but also I still somewhat identify with that male side of me, and I feel like I'm my most true authentic self. Embracing that, loving that. I feel like for the longest time I needed to be female and fully embrace just a female life and a female identity. And that's not me either. So I think as we transition as trans people, we learn about ourselves that we never think we would ever come across our minds. Further for transition, I think I will continue hormones, of course. But besides that, no, I'm pretty content with my transition so far.
Do you intend to get any kind of facial surgery or any plastic surgery to alter your appearance at all?
I've contemplated, but I don't get mistaken as a man too often. But also, I think again it's embracing that male identity, even when I am mistaken, the odd rare time as male. I don't mind that anymore. I really don't. I have learned that when people perceive me, whatever gender that is, because we only go by a dualistic system, it's male or female in this world, in the West. And in the West, I guess, I don't care. If you see me as a guy, see me as a guy. If you see me as a woman, see me as a woman. I know who I am. I know who I love as me. And that's all I need for myself. And I don't care whatever box someone puts me in, because this says more about them than me. I would tell someone, well, I identify as female, my preferred pronouns are female, but if someone calls me he, that's their problem, it's not mine anymore. I'm not gonna let people determine me anymore. I'm gonna determine who I am.
And do you have any future plans, just in life in general?
My plans are to graduate in this December.
What are you studying?
I am studying a major in counseling and a minor in theology, and my main focus of study is LGBTQ plus issues. I start a practicum this May, working with transgender youth, counseling them, which I'm very excited for. And then I'm working on my final thesis paper for my Bachelor of Arts, and that is the what psychological, social, and spiritual factors affect transgender individuals. That's an annotated bibliography that's taking forever, but those things take forever. As for just life in general, I want to get married in the next 2 to 3 years. Get an apartment, relax, enjoy life, get a career going. I want to work with trans people and gay people for the rest of my life. That is my passion. I've gone through a lot. I'm only 23, but I've gone through a lot regarding that experience, and I want to be a support, I guess, where other trans, gays, lesbians, bisexuals, intersex, etc., that they can have that support, have that, because it's lacking. It's really lacking. They feel heard by people that have experienced that and have that knowledge and have that study. I think that's important. I think that's needed. So I've found my calling at 22, which is 23. I can't remember how old I am now, which is great.
This is Andante e Allegro by J. Guy Roparts.
What kind of gave you the realization that you were a guy and not a girl?
It was just kind of like figuring out all of these little things that had been piling together. And like I did have that very repressive state in my life, and where I was like, no, I swear I'm not a guy. Like I can be any gender, just as long as I'm not trans. I swear I'll be fine. But like it slowly just kind of dawned on me, like, ignoring it was the most useless thing I could have done. Because I was so depressed. It was just so bad. And it just kind of accumulated until eventually I was like, shit. So that's why I've been feeling this way.
So what kind of methods did you go through trying to kind of repress that?
It was the beginning of like grade 9-ish, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm non-binary, I'm gender fluid, I'm agender. Like kind of shedding these labels, like there has to be something that fits better than trans, because like you can't be trans, because like Catholic schools and, you know, fear, like internalized transphobia and whatever.
Were you in a Catholic school?
Yeah, I was in the Catholic system for the first decade of my schooling. I did move into the public system, luckily. But yeah, like a mix of being in the Catholic system and internalized transphobia, and like I remember I wore makeup for several months, and I would wear shorter shorts than I've ever worn, and I wore like super low cut tops, and I tried to like accentuate my chest, and you know, I went super feminine, not realizing how detrimental it was to myself. So yeah, the Catholic system was like definitely not the greatest place ever. I remember once I was like grade 3 maybe, and some girl runs up to me and goes, "Hey, look at your fingernails." And I do this. She goes, "Ha, you're a boy." I was like, "What?" She goes, "If you do this, you're a girl. If you do this, you're a boy. And if you do this, you're a hermaphrodite." And I remember being like, what the actual fuck? But of course I didn't know how to articulate that idea of what the hell is wrong with you. I also remember once when I was in grade 6, I was a very nerdy kid, and I would read on the bench next to the football field. Like, I was that kind of nerd. And I remember once this kid Brandon, he's in grade 5 too, comes up to me and he like hikes his leg up onto the bench and tears up his jeans, and he goes, "Hey, look at this." He had this really big gash on his leg, and I was like, what the hell? Is this supposed to freak me out? And he was like, "You're not afraid of blood? You're gay." And I just looked him in the eye and go, "Girls see more blood than boys do." And of course now that comeback makes little to no sense for me, but like I remember being super freaking proud of that. Of course he was confused as hell because he didn't have sex ed. We don't have sex ed in the Catholic system. We have family life.
And what's family life like?
It's like bettering your relationship with God through your budding sexuality. It was such bullshit. Oh my god. I remember in grade 9 we were you know, in the family life unit in religion, we come in and there's this website up about contraceptives. We're all like, what the hell? And the teacher goes, "Okay, I'm not allowed to teach you this, but I'm going to, because I know this is going to be a thing." So like she actually went through contraceptives, and it was really helpful, because it was like, thank you for saying, hey, this is probably important for you to know.
Even though it went against what she was supposed to teach you, huh?
Oh yeah, like honestly, no one really cared, like no one reported her or anything. She was a kind of badass teacher too.
And so, how did you decide to come out about this to your family and your friends?
It was within like the last couple of months of grade 9, and I was like, everyone already knows me as like the butch lesbian, so I'm not gonna try to come out again. Like, this is the Catholic system, there's too much BS for me to deal with. So, you know, I just kind of like slowly stopped wearing makeup, and I took out my earrings, and I remember thinking, I'm gonna come out to my mom and my dad when I have my next appointment with my counselor. And there's this whole debacle with that. My dad couldn't come, and the night before I was supposed to go to my counseling appointment, my family was like, okay, why did you want for us to come to this? And I was like, okay, shit. And my mom had started noticing that I was like not wearing my makeup and not wearing my earrings, and so I decided to go full femme just to throw her off. And so I'm wearing a sundress and dangly earrings and makeup, and I sit my family down and I tell them I'm a boy. And it was very confusing for my parents because they're like, you never showed signs of this as a kid, like this could just be another like another one of the labels that you shed.
Another phase?
Another phase. And so it was just like, you know what, I'm not gonna try and shove it too hard. And I didn't really tell anyone at school, but I remember I didn't go to the last 2 days of school because I actually left early for a trip with my marching band. And it was after the exam. I'm sitting outside playing on my phone waiting for the bus, and this 8th grade kid comes up to me and goes, "Are you trans?" And in my mind I'm going, fuck, where, how, why? And I just kind of go, where did you hear that? He goes, everyone in the 8th grade knows. They're all talking about it. And I was like, thanks for that. That's not terrifying at all. And I still don't know who did it, but I know that it has made me terrified to try to go back to that school where my old band teacher is situated, aka the band teacher who I named myself after. So I'm terrified to go back there because of that event, and it really sucks because I really want to see my old band teacher again.
And how did your family take it?
Like initially my parents were a little bit iffy. It took them about 2 months to kind of come around. My brother Brian was definitely the best about it. He would, like, you know, in secret refer to me as his little brother and stuff like that, which was really nice. I came out to all 3 of my sisters over FaceTime, and, like, you know, it was a little awkward, but it was pretty good. And the last person I had to come out to was my brother Daniel, and I phoned him up on my mom's phone. I was like, "Hey Daniel, so here's the situation." And then I just kind of outright said, you know, "I'm trans." He goes, "Okay." And so I'm like, okay, this is going worse than I thought it would. So, you know, I'm trying to, you know, walk him through and be like, I use he, him pronouns, I go by Sean now. And, like, I remember, I think he was in a bar or something, and I just heard this chattering and then just, okay. And I remember shortly after that, he was apparently talking with my brother Brian, and he was quite upset. But he did eventually come around, which was, like, it definitely took him the longest, but he's definitely the big brother bear, where he'll fuck with anyone who fucks with me. So it was definitely worth waiting for him to come around.
No, did anyone you tell take it badly?
I wrote a letter to my Oma, Dutch for grandmother. She's very, very, very strongly Catholic.
She's very traditional.
Very traditional. I remember she was upset when my dad stopped going to church. You know, I sent her this letter, and this was shortly after my birthday last year, and she apparently had to be talked out of sending me a letter about how I'm mentally ill and about how, you know, I'm going to hell. And I haven't heard from her since. And so my Oma's kind of fallen off the rails. My Uncle Andrew, he was having a hard time with it. You know, he's sending my parents, like, all these articles about, you know, like 3 out of 4 trans people regret their transition and, like, all of these things. And he apparently refuses to be in the same room as my parents unless he can call me a girl. And when my parents went to Dubai, he apparently sent them another article, and my dad basically just had to tell him to fuck off. which is not something my dad does. My dad is very non-confrontational. And those are the people that I know. And I was part of a Skipping Stone project last year to help with the meta clinic. And, this video ended up circulating on Facebook. And this woman that my parents knew like 30 years ago from church sends us a letter about how I'm a very unhappy young girl and I'm practicing the devil's will. And we were like, what the fuck did you think this was going to accomplish? Like, we don't even talk to you anymore. You didn't even know I existed until you saw this video. So it was like, what?
No.
That's the biggest pushback I've had, for sure.
And what was, because you said you moved to public school after grade 9. What was that transition like?
I was the only kid who went from my junior high to my high school. And while it was definitely terrifying, it was also the greatest thing I've ever done. Because I realized I don't have to spend more time around the people who've been calling me like the trumpet bitch for 3 years and who have been like fucking with me for all this time, and I can finally actually just be like, this is who I am, deal with it. And it was amazing because I'm also going to a high school which has a super amazing band program, so I've also been able to really grow as a musician as well.
And so when you started your transition, how did that kind of go for you?
Starting was definitely terrifying, obviously. It was like after the first week of school, my parents were like I sat my parents down and I said, please let me live as your son.
And that was the first week of school this year, correct?
No, that was last year.
That was last
That
year.
was shortly after the first week of school last year. And because there was a form that was like, if your child goes by another name, please fill this in. And I was like, please let me live as your son. And there was quite a bit of debacle over it, but my parents did eventually come around.
Was there any reasoning why they wanted otherwise?
They were still quite unsure, and they were still a little scared, I guess, especially since there's so much hatred towards the trans community. And so they were really scared for my safety, for sure.
They were looking in your best interest, though.
Yeah, they were for sure looking in my best interests. And my mom was saying, like, why can't you just do high school as a girl? And I was like, no, this is 3 more years of my life. I can't just keep lying. So that was kind of what happened.
And so when you started your hormone replacement, how did that go for you? What were you feeling when you started?
I was absolutely elated. Like, I was so excited that I could finally actually do this. But then after the first shot, I was just slapped with dysphoria for like 3 or 4 days. And I felt totally paralyzed because it was like, I was just hit with this realization that it's going to take so long for the hormones to actually kick in. And I just got absolutely freaked out because it was just, I felt like hyper-aware all of a sudden of how feminine I still am.
Do you intend to go through any surgical procedures?
I'm looking into top surgery. We're figuring out when the best time for that to happen would be. And honestly, I don't know if I ever would do bottom surgery, just because, like, it's so freaking expensive. Like, holy shit, it costs so much money.
Is it covered?
No, it's not covered. Hysterectomies, top surgeries, and hormones are covered, but phalloplasties aren't.
And how much of the phalloplasty?
Into the tens of thousands.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's not. And, like, it's the kind of money that I don't know if I'll ever have that kind of spare change just lying around, you know? Plus, like, it takes a lot of time because it has to be done in certain phases and you have to get skin grafts done, and I don't really know if it's just worth all the hassle. If it were easier, I would 100% go for it.
Do you think you might ever change your mind about it?
If I ever have enough saved up, maybe.
And you said you went through a sort of non-binary phase. What do you have to say about that?
I think that was just me being like absolutely petrified, because I was like, I can be any gender. I can be cis. I could be non-binary. I could be agender. I could be gender fluid. But I'm not trans. I swear I am not trans. And like that was just my constant thought process, and it was destroying me from the inside out. So.
And what did you feel when you when you finally accepted that you were trans?
It was a moment of pure relief, and then, holy shit, I'm actually going to transition. Holy shit.
Were you scared at all?
I was terrified. I was so petrified, because the moment I realized, the moment I accepted myself was the moment I realized just how long of a journey I have. This is just my wall of awesome things. It's stuff that I really enjoy, stuff that I like looking at, and stuff that really means a lot to me. And I really love my room looks a little kitschy sometimes, but I really like it. Yeah, it's just a whole bunch of awesome stuff, because there's Behold the Power of King Max, which was an inside joke from Roundup. There's my tattoo ID, which we actually had to use in order to get into the tattoo. And it was used as a bus pass, which was fun. When in doubt, titties out, it was from Camp Firefly, and just became a constant running joke. And I was one of the last people to want to win a concert band performer award from AIBF, because they actually discontinued concert band awards. So I'm one of the last ones to have actually won one.